Red Dead Redemption 2 is one of the greatest story games in modern gaming. But this isn't a video about RDR2 by itself. This is about what I've learned from it and how it's changing the story I'm building. I create stories in video games, but before I ever start building my stories, I spend my time just looking, experiencing the world, the light, the details, the storytelling, the details most people walk straight past. I venture to find the art in games. And right now, that game that I'm creating a story in is Minecraft. Red Dead Redemption and Minecraft are polar opposites. They're completely different. But I still find myself combining elements from both to build my own story, The Last Empire. And the more time I've spent on RDR2 live on stream, the more I realize how big of an influence it has had on my writing, on the attention to detail in my story, how characters and narratives change over time, and how a world can tell a story before anyone says a word. This is what you and me are exploring today. To give some context, my creative process is unique to myself as anybody's would be. I live stream a lot of different games on Twitch, but I don't just play these games just for the fun of it. I'm researching and studying why these games are masterpieces as a medium of art. Red Dead Redemption is just one example of the games I'm studying. My study involves taking my time playing the game, enjoying the small moments and interactions between characters and seeing all the small narratives and details come together to create the game that you and me both know. Arthur Morgan, being the main protagonist in RDR2, uses a journal to express his own emotions, thoughts, and experiences. And as a player, we help Arthur write in that journal, through exploring a fictionalized version of the United States during the late 19th century, helping other characters in side missions or progressing in the main story. Why am I talking about all this? Well, my creative process has always begun with journaling, brain dumping everything I have stored up in my mind to try and piece together a story worth telling. The attention to detail within the Red Dead world is something that cannot be overlooked. The story progression with Arthur as the leading force, and the visual storytelling that is expressed through the change in the environment. Arthur Morgan has certainly inspired my own character, the Emperor, and with many other RDR2 characters inspiring key figures within The Last Empire's story. Red Dead Redemption 2 is famous for its unmatched attention to detail for its world set in 1899 America. We first experienced this insane attention to detail in the first mission, Outlaws from the West, which is set in the snowy, grizzly mountains, where the Van der Linde gang are trying to escape the law after a failed ferry heist in Blackwater. The snow itself is such a small detail, yet it is so significant. You can see it as the wagons pull through, characters walk through it, and the clothing changing as snow drops upon it. This sets up the scene and mood of isolation for the first chapter incredibly well. Something that really caught my eye was the sense of royalty amongst the gang in the abandoned mining camp. The camp itself is structured to reflect the social hierarchy, with Dutch, Xavveya, Arthur and Molly residing in the main cabin with their own rooms, while supporting members and John's recovering family huddle in a separate, more dilapidated building.
You're over here. Miss O'Shea will show you the way. Mr. Morgan, we put you in a room over here.
Thank you, Miss Grimshaw.
Mr. Bell, you're with the fellas over there.
What? How come Arthur gets a room and I get a bunk bed next to Bill Williamson and a bunch of darkies?
Get yourself to bed.
We immediately understand who is favored more over others when Dutch, Arthur and Micah return from Sadie Adler's house. Most players don't notice these small details in their first playthrough. I certainly didn't, but after playing through the story again, it reminded me of a foundational storytelling technique known as environmental storytelling. And this is something I am certainly using to enhance my own craft and my story, The Last Empire. Using this adds a deep psychological context to a story's narrative. My story, being the creation of an empire, is one part, and the other part, where key figures are trying to understand the empire's history, certainly shows environmental storytelling. An empire can never be equal. There will be people higher than others, and that's immediately expressed through the first episodes when we are introduced to Sorceress Island, an extremely rich and profitable place with soaring towers that is home to the Sorceresses faction, where the Sorceresses are extremely careful on who they allow in. This contrasts perfectly well with the beginning of the Empire in the first episode, where the Emperor is placed in a world with no sense of responsibility, but only a power that he understands. As the Emperor runs around the first village he finds, he sets up his own place, establishes himself as the person who runs things, but doesn't feel any weight of responsibility and only wants to live a life of efficiency and comfort. His home may be in the side of a cliff, and may be humble and similar to the villagers' homes, but it is much more practical than any of the villagers, and his ability to create whatever he wants, whenever he needs it, in the matter of moments, immediately shows his status is much higher than those of the villagers. This is similar to Red Dead Redemption, as the Vanderlyn gang don't live in luxury, but they still have a social hierarchy, and this social hierarchy is also shown in The Last Empire with the Emperor and the villagers. Attention to detail builds a believable world and prevents players and watchers from pulling back from the narrative. Strategic details are constantly used throughout Red Dead Redemption, and that grounds the audience in the setting, revealing deep layers within characters and controls the story pace and heightens the emotional impact. Progression in any story is vital. As time moves on, so does the circumstances, situation, and characters. Red Dead Redemption is a masterclass in character-driven storytelling, with brilliant narrative composition. The game starts as an epic battle fantasy, then slowly moves into an intimate, tragic character study, due to the world's progression towards modernity and civilization, with the Vanderlyn gang's capabilities and stability physically deteriorating with this fast train ride towards the 20th century. So we know Red Dead Redemption 2 does an amazing job at narrative and character progression, which is extremely important, where the narrative that involves a plot provides the external framework, that being the rising action, conflict, and climax. Red Dead Redemption's progression involves running from the law, which is rising action, getting caught and ultimately losing gang members, which is the conflict, and the climax being the destruction of the gang itself through internal conflict by its own members and leader. Without getting into too much detail, The Last Empire follows a story with the main character, that being the Emperor, slowly learning his powers have quite a big impact. The conflict itself is realizing he had an opportunity to end suffering, and goes to battle internally with himself, as he was too late to actually save anybody. And the climax, well, you're just gonna have to watch it to see how the story concludes. The key to a compelling story is ensuring that what happens in the plot directly forces protagonists to confront their internal flaws and beliefs, and Red Dead Redemption 2 certainly taught me that through playing as Arthur Morgan. Arthur starts the game as a hardened, ruthless outlaw, devoted to Dutch's utopian anti-civilization free living rhetoric. But Arthur has a dramatic shift from a complacent enforcer to a man seeking genuine redemption. This comes from mounting losses of gang members, betrayals, and his terminal tuberculosis diagnosis when he returns from Guarma. Arthur is forced to confront his past actions. Overall, his journey is cold and cynical, but as the game progresses, his writing reflects a deep philosophical thoughts on failure and forgiveness. His honor heavily dictates how he treats others in his final days, and ultimately focusing entirely to securing a safe future for John Marston's family. The Emperor in The Last Empire starts as a reckless individual who wants nothing but comfort, efficiency, and zero responsibility. Wanted to start a town and create an amazing place where him and others can live. But as time progresses, he realizes his powers allow him for so much more. And as he experiences a moment of great loss to people he barely knew, his journey turns into one where he seeks redemption like Arthur, and does so by forming the Empire, and ensuring that no one goes through the horrors of the past again. So Red Dead Redemption, more specifically Arthur Morgan's story, has heavily inspired my main character, and many other supporting characters have been inspired by the actions and behaviors of members of the Vanderlyn gang. This is why narrative and character progression is so important in stories. They pull the reader through the plot, give stakes to a conflict, and transform abstract themes into a relatable human experience. It gives emotional investment to anybody reading, watching, or experiencing a story. Visual storytelling is the art of conveying narratives, messages, or ideas using primarily visual media rather than text. Both The Last Empire and Red Dead Redemption uses its sprawling open world as an active storytelling medium, with Red Dead Redemption being set in an already built world, and one part of The Last Empire being set in a world that needs to be built. Instead of solely just relying on dialogue, Red Dead Redemption communicates its narrative through visual pacing, environmental details, and cinematic framing, allowing for the world's geography to visually reflect the emotional journey and the decline of the outlaw era. Something that I noticed was the constant change in lighting, mood, and location of each chapter's camp as the story progressed. Chapter 1 was a fearful moment, but it was bright and everyone was banded together. Chapter 2 was the happiest time at Horseshoe Overlook, and once Chapter 6 started, the Vanderlyn gang was staying in a camp that was once home to a gang of murderers, with the surrounding area being dark and gloomy, and the overall feeling of the Vanderlyn gang was that it was falling apart. This use of visual storytelling is one of the easiest ways to set the mood for the audience. You and me both know that something either good or bad is going to happen depending on the tone of the area, the lighting, or the people. This is something I am certainly taking into the Last Empire. With many dangerous places throughout the Empire needing outposts, I aim to create that feeling of danger or terror through picking specific biomes in Minecraft. I also change the lighting, the camera angles, or the actions of the scripted cinematic content scenes to tell the audience what the feelings, messages, or emotions are. Visual storytelling has a big place in narratives and stories. They form the messages and ideas through showing rather than telling. I've learned a lot about how progression can be deeply impacted by visual storytelling and how you can allude to an ending without stating it. Red Dead Redemption 2 has taught me a lot about the craft of storytelling. The game's ability to bring out emotions in any situation or mission is something that I aspire to achieve in my own stories. This game taught me how to tell a story through minute details that many people wouldn't notice, characters that change dramatically as the story progresses, and the world's messages before anything is ever even said. The Last Empire is still being built, but it's certainly better now because of what Red Dead Redemption has showed me. I think that's what great stories do. They can make the next person who experiences them want to create something too.